I just want to talk about the riots across the UK right now. And I want to start by talking about Israel-Palestine. And you guys might think that's weird because there are riots happening across the UK against Muslim communities and general South Asian communities. And you might ask yourself how it's linked. Now, I've been making a lot of videos on my channel about Western chauvinism. It's basically, in my mind, the new breed of fascism is about Western supremacy, not white supremacy. White supremacy comes into it, but it's mainly like a newer thing about this clash of civilizations, going back to Samuel Huntington's work in the 1990s, which everyone thought was vindicated after 9/11. That the new battle between ideologies wouldn't be communism versus capitalism, it would be Islamicism versus Western secular democracy. And from that, and through the war on terror, through ISIS, and now through Israel-Palestine and the recent genocide in Gaza, we're seeing this rhetoric ramped up even more. Islam is not compatible with Western values, whatever they are. And in my mind, I don't support Western values if that is like genocide, imperialism, capitalism. But if there's some imagined idea of Western values, it's about like secularism, tolerance, all that shit, which is quite funny when you're seeing like the riots right now. But anyway, because of this Western chauvinist fascism, of course, the political class and the business class and the journalism class in Western countries ran cover and supported a genocide. Not only did you have the leader of the opposition at the time, who's the current Prime Minister, Keith Starmer, saying that Israel has a right to shut off all water and power in Gaza, which is collective punishment, which is a war crime. He said that. He has purged his own party of anyone who was critical of Israel before the genocide and even during the genocide. Then you had the Tory party, who just support the genocide by default. And then you have the press basically demonizing all pro-Palestinian protesters as anti-Semites and even neo-Nazis. So that is the context we've had recently in the UK, where everyone who supported the Palestinian people, who are majority Muslim, they're linked to some sort of Nazism and anti-Semitism. And the way the protests, which I went on myself, which were completely peaceful despite being absolutely insane numbers of people there, they were characterized as basically something out of 1930s Germany, pogroms against Jews and shit like that. And now we have actual far-right protests, which do resemble stuff that happened in like 1930s Germany, of Nazis going around and just attacking random people who aren't white based on their fear and hatred of Muslims. Again, a racial stereotype of a Muslim, and it doesn't matter to them if this person believes in Islam or not, they're going to attack them. Obviously, that wouldn't be an excuse anyway, but it shows that it is primarily a racist thing above all else. But the narrative around Israel and Palestine and the mass dehumanization of Muslims, which has been going on for, let's say, 25 years, but has ramped up recently with the genocide in Gaza, has basically made this acceptable and has made people think this is okay to just attack Muslim communities in the UK. So that is part of it that you can't ignore, but it's a general trend of Western chauvinist fascism that has ramped up since, let's say, 2015 in Europe. But also we can't ignore the economic side, and a lot of liberals are feeling quite smug. They're like, oh, we're better than this. All these people who are rioting have unemployment benefits and one GCSE between them and have no teeth and they're alcoholics and shit like that. That is not helpful rhetoric, because if you want people to not join the far right, demonizing them and just saying basically working class people are scum who are inherently like fascistic and shit like that, that won't help anyone. And you're part of the problem anyway, because the liberal class in the UK, including the current Labour government, are not going to address the problems which cause support for the far right, and that is austerity and capitalism, which has crushed certain communities around the UK, and they're looking for an alternative. And because of the press in this country, and because of the recent election, which was campaigned on which party would deport Muslim refugees faster, they're now looking for an alternative, and the main voices are saying to them, yeah, it's Muslims stealing your jobs. So they're the problem. It's not capitalism, it's not big business, it's not the Labour Party, it's not the Tory Party, it's Muslims. Muslim refugees escaping war and persecution coming to the UK are ruining the UK. If only they went away, your life would be great. Obviously, that's bullshit, but don't give these people a reason to hate you even more by saying, oh yeah, all these protests are just driven by like thick people who have no teeth and one GCSE, because that classist rhetoric is not gonna make people come around to another argument that is, it's capitalism and the elite ruining your life, not people who are poor refugees. And to end that point and to end the video, if anyone's conservative watching this, you are far closer to being someone on a dinghy crossing the English Channel to seek a better life in the UK than you are to Nigel Farage and his rich mates, or even Tommy Robinson, because you're never going to have that money or power. They're manipulating you for their own ends. So yes, if there's any conservatives who think, oh, yeah, Muslims are the problem and they're ruining the UK, then you just need to wake up and realize it's the elite, it's capitalism, it's austerity that has caused your problems in life, not random refugees who come here for a better life that don't have much of an economic standing and they're not really part of the elite at all. It's the elite. It's the Tory party, it's the Labour Party, it's Keir Starmer, it's Rishi Sunak. These are your enemies, not random migrant communities, Muslim communities, or random, like, any migrant communities. And we've seen this play out a long, long time. All my grandparents were migrants here as well, and guess what? They got shit. They got the same shit as well. It's such an old-fashioned thing that keeps getting trotted out to convince you that your enemy is people just like you rather than the elite. Just because they're from a different ethnic or national background or religious background doesn't mean you're not more similar than, you know, all these people who rule over us and use their outlets like the Daily Mail to actually stir division among us, so we fight amongst ourselves and don't realise who the real enemy is. So anyway, that is it. You know, stay tuned for my larger video out probably tomorrow.